Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
To put it simply, I had a great time watching Days of Our Lives this week, especially the parties. It's even better for us because you could tell the actors were enjoying themselves. The weddings have been one aspect of this most recent writing regimen that I have always loved. It should come as no surprise, then, that I enjoyed the build-up to Jada's special day this week. Even though I wasn't paying attention to the first go-around in Armid, I'm curious about the direction this story is go. Animals for parties. Yes, I definitely belong to the group of people who thoroughly enjoyed the Bachelor/Bachelorette party episode. It was everything enjoyable, even the Jell-O shots, Chanel's role as the sulky, wasted friend who everyone feels sorry for and irritated with, Jada's response when they casually brought up the devil in Salem, say what now, and everyone ignoring her and going on. I was drooling over those cupcakes, but apparently nobody touched them. Drinking on an empty stomach is a rookie error. If I had one grievance, it would be that there ought to have been more options than champagne and shots. However, even with the girls' ridiculous game, there were pleasant connections to the past. Stephanie reminded us that she was in a fairly awful, violent relationship when we first visited her, which may have contributed to her difficulties in finding a committed partner. As a pleasant prelude to their resuming their romance, Belle mentioned EJ. Jada lost her virginity to add another layer that would make it difficult for her to trust men, starting with Bobby and ending with Rafe's treachery. And I liked how the boys were the ones creating the drama, while the women were entertaining and dirty. Javi and Sean had to yank an irate Steve away from Rafe after EJ showed up and infuriated everyone. It was almost as if expectations were reversed. And I was still outraged that Rafe was cheating on Jada, even if I knew it was Arnold all over Savannah. Javi must have been horrified to believe that his adored cousin actually did. In addition, I saw that the women automatically referred to Savannah as a dancer, while the men automatically referred to her as a stripper. It was a tastefully nuanced acknowledgement of gender-based unconscious bias. I'll be honest, I even liked the Armid content. I'm not sure why they're dancing about claiming that Rachel Blake is the woman in white, but whatever. With all she's sharing, they're really making fun of us, and if Stefano lived, Rachel couldn't have for any reason. However, there must be a more intriguing explanation for her decades-long presence and activities than haunting an abandoned mansion. Additionally, it must explain why she turned evil and abandoned the good woman we knew in the past. However, I think Rosalind Gentle did a good job, and I'm interested to see where they're taking this. For now, I'll only state if this will ultimately delve more into the Blake/Demara link and history, though I have a few ideas. Now that they've mentioned Peter's name a couple times, I'm even more certain that Michael Dietz will bring him back. I'm fairly certain that all of this will end with Brady and Kristen determining that Rachel is genuinely disturbed and that she requires more than therapy, and then sending her to a specialized facility for assistance. After that, she will return as a very different Rachel, with a recast quite literally. As Brady and Kristen rely on one another to gain her assistance, Rachel's scheme might succeed in reuniting them if she is indeed that dysfunctional. As an aside, it wasn't until the fans pointed it out that I discovered Armid was Demara spelled backwards. I was just a few years old at the time. Despite the fact that it is so evident today, I doubt that I could have arrived there on my own. Especially considering that Days of Our Lives isn't an isolated incident. See New Salem/Meliswen. That leads me to an essential point though. Arnold. Double, what's the issue? I am aware that some people are annoyed by how foolish everyone is being over Rafe's blatant fakery. In retrospect, however, EJ has largely prevented Arnold from spending excessive amounts of time with Rafe's friends and family since the transfer. Fortunately, he has maintained a low level of intimacy with Jada. They can all sense that something is wrong with him in every encounter he has with them. On the morning of the wedding, Jada even stated unequivocally that she doubted herself because of her own personal trauma with Everett and Bobby. I felt foolish not knowing until someone pointed it out, but I didn't see Armid since I wasn't expecting it. That's a human mental trick, in my opinion. If we are not seeking for it, we fail to notice what is directly in front of us. And even if it has happened before, who expects their loved one to be replaced with an exact replica? Neither Jada nor Javi were present for that. When it occurred, Steve wasn't even present. He was traveling the world for the ISA at the time. And as I mentioned earlier, my brain was still trying to convince me that Arnold was Rafe. So even though I knew he was Arnold, I still had an instinctive reaction when I saw him everywhere in Savannah. I find it amusing that they haven't expressed sympathy for Rafe's strange behavior, but it still works for me, and I'm having fun. Despite Rita's efforts, the story hasn't stretched on for months, and I anticipate that it will conclude within the February sweeps period. Take 1 at the wedding. On Thursday night, I was describing my excitement for Friday by stating that it was Jada and Rafe's big day and that Rafe was going to attend his own wedding, albeit he didn't, since he had recently been released from EJ. Furthermore, attempting to describe it seemed like pure soap opera fun without being very sci-fi, fantasy, or anything. When large weddings are truly stopped, the subsequent ones are typically hurried affairs, which is something that saddens me. This implies that Jada and the actual Rafe will probably exchange wedding vows in their kitchen or a similar location. It's absurd to have a wedding outside in the cold, but at least they recognized the weather and installed some heaters. I'd like to hear what EJ got on Jada, but we'll see how it turns out on Monday. If it's true, we'll learn something about her that EJ is simply misrepresenting in order to paint her as corrupt, and whether bringing her in and making her an arrest is indeed sufficient. I can see this fueling the flame between him and Belle even more if his plot succeeds and Arnold is appointed commissioner and somehow persuades Paulina to rehire EJ, until she learns of the terrible things he did to bring it about. And that brings us to the question of how EJ is going to escape this situation. However, perhaps he isn't. A long back, I conjectured that his shooting would somehow get him out of trouble, but occasionally, characters do end up paying the piper. Although I don't see EJ leaving the show, he might be imprisoned for a while until they find a good excuse to let him out. Perhaps his time in jail and encounters with former adversaries who might be added to the suspect list preceded his shooting. Wandering thoughts. After everything they had been through together, I rated Chanel and Johnny as a mediocre couple the other week. Chanel made a big point with me, though, when she confessed to kissing Sean right away. Johnny understood and she realized that perhaps they should try to resolve the issue. Does Belle have the maturity to sleep with whoever she wants, when she wants to? Of course. However, given everything that EJ has done to the family, Marlena's rage, and her declaration that Belle cannot sleep with him in her home make logical. This week's response to the query, where is Ahmed, was right next door to Salem. However, I appreciated the conjectures in the soapbox comments from last week, and I'm relieved that I wasn't the only one who was perplexed.